Hey, everybody. All right, it's 2 o'clock. We are starting right on the nail today. Um, so we have a new week, a new set of speakers, new parenting tips to up your parenting game this week. And I finally get to share my story. A little piece of my story tomorrow. And I seriously can't wait. So I'm so excited that I am going to do an extra giveaway. So you got that extra giveaway at the very beginning of the summit. I'm doing an extra one tomorrow for an air fort. I don't know if you guys have seen these, but they have been really popular lately. And we call it an air tent, but they're called air forts. And we get it out almost every day. So here is a pro parenting tip for you, right? We clean up all the toys in every room before we get it out. So it's a huge motivator for getting things cleaned up. And all you have to do to enter is tune in tomorrow to my live or watch the replay. And I'm going to give you a special sentence to Facebook message me or email me to enter for the air fort. So easy peasy, right? Speaking of prizes, today we get to hear from Danny Huerta of Focus on the Family, and he is speaking on the 7 traits of effective parenting, raising contributors instead of consumers. And he has some surprise giveaways for us. So I'm going to read his bio and then we will get him up on the screen. So Daniel Huerta oversees Focus on the Family's initiatives that equipped mothers and fathers with biblical principles and counsel for raising healthy, resilient children. A bilingual licensed clinical social worker, Huerta addresses issues related to parenting such as communication, conflict resolution, spiritual growth, discipline, stress, and media discernment. So we are going to bring him up on the screen. Give him some love in the chat. Tell him where you are listening in from today, and he's going to take it away.
All right. Well, thank you, Christine. What a privilege it is to be with you. I love being a dad this morning. In fact, I looked at my son and my daughter, said goodbye. They're 17 and 15 on my way here to Focus on the Family. And there's my son as a toddler, one of my favorite pictures. He was posing for me as he was pretending to be Superman. And there's the family right there, up there. So the idea is we're wanting to build deep-rooted homes. And I want to tell you a quick story of when my son was a toddler and we were on a hill. This is where God taught me some pretty amazing, one very amazing lesson that I needed to hear. And it opened up my eyes to the fact that kids can teach us a lot along the way. And this is a process of transformation for us as parents. In the toddler years, just so you know, are the most active. And I'll repeat that down the road. That's the most active time in our lives. So just know that. And from there, kids do slow down. I can't imagine teenagers with toddler energy. It would really get chaotic. So anyway, if you're tired, just know this is the most active time that our kids will have in their engagement with life. So we were staying at my in-laws' house while our house was being built. And we were outside on a hill, that netting that is on the construction, they put on construction sites that you can get tangled in. Well, my son was walking down this hill. He got really scared and felt like his feet were going to get tangled. And my daughter was at the bottom of the hill running, having a great time. She was about 1.5. He was 3. And he looked into my eyes with a lot of fear. And I just held out my hand to push him a little bit. And I said, son, it's going to be okay. I've got you. And it was just about 1.5 feet. And I just looked into his eyes. He wasn't sure about it. And then he trusted me in that moment and took the 2 steps out of trust and then went into my hands. And he gave me a clear picture of my relationship with my Heavenly Father, that sometimes he tells me to take a couple steps in fear. And my kids along the way have taught me some amazing things. So make sure you have your eyes open to that. Be a noticer of the fact that your kids, God's trying to teach you a lot through your kids, and you can learn a lot about yourself as well in this stage. So here's some top trends in 2020 for parents. More self-care, which is great. I know that was talked about here. More hands-on learning for kids and less social media time. That's interesting, right? As far as just the trends that we're seeing in parenting. Now, keep in mind, so my kids are 17 and 15. Facebook didn't start until 2004. My son would have been 1. Think about what has taken place from that time to now. You're preparing kids for an ever-changing world, and you as a parent are adapting to what's happening in culture as well as what's changing in your home. And along the way, you're learning spiritual truths and trying to teach your children how to engage in a culture that is changing and shifting every single day. I never thought I'd be wearing a mask, and yet now here we are. We're wearing masks, and we have some different things that our kids are growing up in. One of the recent research polls of parents of toddlers asked the question, what do you think you need to work on most? And the majority of them, many of them said patience. And I would agree with that. Patience is a huge thing to be working on. And what's interesting, a separate study asked parents if they had chores early in their lives. And 80%, more than 80% said, yes, I had chores. They were very beneficial. Yet only about 20 to 25%, in the 20%, actually it was 28%, said that they actually gave their kids chores because they felt bad with all the busyness and things happening in their homes. They felt bad giving their kids chores. Yet that is a crucial thing for our kids, and that can begin in the toddler years. This is a time when kids are looking to you. Your kids are wanting to respond and wanting to help. And just so you know, empathy begins at 15 months of age. And so if you don't think your child is picking up on your emotions, maybe there's an argument between you and your spouse, your toddler's picking up on that, and sometimes they'll just start crying and you won't know why. And that is something you can realize, that they are actually experiencing the emotions of the room as early as 15 months. And you can maybe see some behaviors and emotions pop up, and you don't know where they're coming from because you don't think they're understanding, yet they are. They can understand 300 or more words in the toddler years. Something that's been asked, I've been asked in the past is, when can kids feel sadness or fear? And when can you begin to see depression in kids? And that's as early as 3 to 5 months. You can begin to see some of those signs. You begin to see the emotional world in kids. They, from birth, are learning and responding through mirror neurons with what is happening inside of your world, inside of you, and in the culture around them as they're growing up in the home. Another question that was asked was, do toddlers have enough impulse control to stop themselves from the forbidden things? And really at the age of 3 to 5 is when that part of the brain develops well. So you're in the teaching mode in the toddler years. This is a time when they are trying to learn what those no's are, yet they're exploring. They're the most active ever in their lives. And so know that you have to have a purpose to the discipline. And the discipline is not, hey, my toddler's being inconvenient to me. It's, what am I trying to teach my toddler about life and about the no's around him or her? Your job is not to make your child happy, but to really respond to the emotions and help them learn how to manage these big, big emotions that come up for them. A couple other questions I've been asked. When does reading to your child really help them, and when does talking to them benefit them? And that's right from birth. Even in the womb, you can begin to read and talk to them. And that is just so important with language development. And just know that they're listening into your words that you're using around you and in your relationships and your phone calls, as well as you're responding to sporting events. All those things your kids are picking up on what you're saying. And most parents are just kind of winging it. And yet parenting, if you have parenting goals, you're going to really, even if you're not perfect with them, you're going to intentionally begin to build some really good things in your kids and in yourselves. So here's one other question that I think a lot of parents love to hear about is, when does the skill or ability to share and take turns develop? By what age can we expect our kids to really develop that skill? And that's, again, age 3 to 5. So you're teaching and building those skills in your kids as they're becoming contributors rather than consumers. And sometimes with toddlers, the easiest way to help ourselves emotionally is to just satisfy our kids either with TV or some type of object that maybe they can disengage with or in, And what the idea for us as parents is when there are those big emotions, that's the most teachable moments we have, whether in the grocery store, in our home. And so make sure you're stretched out emotionally and ready to step into that. So I want you to use your imagination here for a moment. And I'm going to take you into the 7 traits, but first I want to take you through your imagination into maybe picturing what is taking place in your home. So I want you to picture yourself as a city that's been built over time. Think about what parent had the most influence in your life. Think about what parent had the most authority over you in your life. That's different. And think about who's built over time into your life, the rolling credits of the building of this city. And so if you're picturing yourself as a city that's built over time, you may have a rough area some people come into. You may have a more entertaining place, a more day-to-day type of place that people come into. But you are this city that's unique, that's built over time. Similar to others, but you're built over time. So now picture that, and then you meet a spouse. They have a city they've been building over time where they've had influences in their lives. And you're building highways between each other that have construction, that has to have construction every single day. We're always under construction. And so there's these highways that you're trying to take care of between husband and wife. And then you choose to have a child, and then another child, and maybe another child. And now you have these 3 little cities that are being built, and you just have dirt roads to them. You're starting to learn, who has God created this child to be? What does this emotion mean? What does this cry mean? That's a hard one. When they're toddlers and infants, they're crying, but what does it mean? Sick, upset, you're trying to decipher all that. And so there's these cities that are being built over time, and you're getting to build into these infant and toddlers' lives in the beginning framework of this city. And then over time, they start to have other cities connect with them and highways. And in the meantime, you're building highways with your kids that are expanding and always under construction. And some kids you'll feel more connected to along the way and certain ages and stages. And know that those first years, the right side of the brain, the more emotional and creative side of the brain, is developing. That's the toddler years. So you're going to have a much more expressive, much more emotional stage of life. The next one, the preschool years, it shifts to the left side of the brain, the more academic, the more language focused side of the brain. And you see that because that's when language starts to come out. So in development, the brain goes from left to right, from the factual side to the right side, and one more dominant than the other. But during the during the toddler years, which are the mini teenage years, and that's kind of a practice for you, the right side of the brain is developing. Now, there's a lot there you can't control, but what you're trying to build is influence in the building in this child's life. And so that's where the 7 traits come in. This is more about you than your children. And so I just wrote some thoughts that were specific to toddlers, and you'll have this download. It shows you the road and the map there of the 7 traits. And the 7 traits are based off of a lot of research. It's the parenting styles. You may have heard of authoritarian parenting, which is the high rules, high authority, very little warmth and sensitivity. Then you have the permissive parent, which is all sensitivity and all warmth, and then no boundaries and limits. And then you have the neglectful parenting, which is completely disengaged. And then you have the ideal one, which is authoritative parenting, which is a high level of boundaries, expectations, demandingness, not psychological control, but behavioral control. And then you have on the other side a high level of relationship sensitivity and warmth. And that's what the 7 traits are based off of, along with biblical principles, and then more than 20 years of clinical practice as a family therapist, myself, and as a dad as well for 2 teenagers. And the idea is creating, again, contributors rather than consumers. Now, let me tell you the difference between that. And it was fascinating for me to see kids that became teenagers that were consumers. These guys were very charismatic, very charming. And so they learned how to get what they wanted and what behaviors they needed to do in a very pro-social way, very nice, very kind, but behind the back, they wanted something for themselves. What you're trying to create is kids that are doing something for someone else out of serving another person, loving another person, encouraging another person. And a practical way to do this, using this language with your kids early on, is practice being noticers. Noticers of what God is doing, and you can use that language with toddlers early on. Let's notice, where's God? Let's look for him. Noticers of our emotions, how they're impacting other people. I remember my daughter, she had come, I think she was about 3 years old. She had come down to the breakfast table, was in a really bad mood. And she wasn't being very patient at all. She was just, her emotions were coming out, and we talked about bad smells, and sometimes our attitude and our emotions create bad smells, and she could relate to that. And I said, I want you to bring good smells into the room, and that means kindness and being loving. And so we model that, and that takes patience on our end to wait for the fact that it's going to take several teaching moments for them to capture that picture, but they'll get it. And I said, hey, you know what? I think you forgot Patience in your room. Let's go find her. Let's go find Patience. And she looked at me confused. And I said, hey, you got to come with me. We got to find her. I mean, she is lost right now. And we really, this is an emergency. And she looked at me, and she was picking up off of what I was wanting to do. And so she followed me into her room, not knowing what we were looking for. And we went into her closet. I crawled around with her in her closet. I was going, man, we can't find Patience. We got to find her. And then I pretended to find Patience. Hey, here's Patience. Do you know what Patience looks like? And she looked at me confused. And I said, it's when you're loving to your brother, when you say something kind, when you control your feelings. And we were starting that. And then another day, she did say that she wanted to, this was when she was a little older, she wanted to go look for, she told her brother, why don't you go for Patience? And so she got that. She captured that. And we have used that even as teenagers now, just for fun. Hey, let's go look for Patience. I think you completely forgot Patience, and we need to go on a search and rescue mission for Patience. So anyway, that's just one thought there, is we're considering these 7 traits. Now, the 7 traits, just so you know, have been researched since the 1960s, and authoritative, well, the elements of the 7 traits with authoritative parenting have been researched. And what I want to do is distill it into 7 very practical ways for you. The first one is adaptability, and we kind of talked about that. Help your child shift their brain by you shifting yours. If you have a moment where things are not the way they're supposed to be, and the way we talk about it in our home is, that wasn't supposed to happen. And you kind of smile and go, okay, what do we do now? And we step into what is right there. In scientific terms, it's called psychological flexibility. How can I look at what is there and begin to adapt and adjust to what is going to be the healthiest or most meaningful thing to do in that moment, in a response, responding into something that I have no control over. So let's say a child spills milk in the middle of, where you're working. And initially you want to just react. You're adapting to something that is a potentially very connecting moment to a child that initially feels bad. And so maybe that's a moment of your own timeout. If you give yourself maybe 5 timeouts in a day, that's great. You can check mark it and go, hey, timeout time, while you grab the towels and start to towel everything down. And then you can use the phrase, well, that wasn't supposed to happen. So what do we do now? And your child will want to be helpful. They naturally want to be pro-socially helpful. So you say, hey, why don't you contribute? Why don't you help me? Let's clean this up. Let's fix this up. You're contributing, and that's fantastic. What a helper. That was an accident. Let's be more careful. What do you think we should do next time? And you start, especially with the 3-year-olds, they can help you with coming up with solutions. And you say, you know what? We'll put any cups of water like this up somewhere else. You're not going to be able to have that. So it's adapting to what is happening. And many parents are told, use distractions. That's good. And as parents, let's use them too. Let's use our own distractions to help us deal with life that can feel very overwhelming and stressful. And sometimes it may be taking a walk, just leaving everything in the home. You're starting to get totally stressed and you're feeling like screaming, and you say, hey, you know what, let's go for a walk. This seems to be going not the way that I planned on it going today, and let's go for a walk. And your kids will begin to see that you're able to shift when your emotions get to a certain level. That's your emotion thermometer. And you could even put a thermometer with your emotions to show your kids a great life skill by modeling it. And you put it yourself, hey, my thermometer is getting kind of hot. I think I need to cool down. I'm going to have to, let's go take a walk for a little bit. Let's take some deep breaths. And if they see that, they will begin to mirror that down the road. And then you'll see them taking their own time outs, which is fantastic. The next one is respect. That's number 2. Respect is one that is super important for parents to model how we manage our language, our thoughts, our conversations, the way we handle stressful moments. Again, you're not going to be perfect, but part of respect may be to say, I'm sorry, I really didn't handle myself well. Respect gets overlooked many times in the home because we don't see, we generally try to get our kids to be respectful to us, but as parents, we get to model that in our times publicly with in the store or with teachers or with daycare workers, if that happens, or with your spouse, or with people on the phone, bill collectors, all those kinds of conversations. You get to model what it means to be respectful to other people, to be contributors in their lives, rather than going into a conversation demanding or expecting. You're going in, how can I be a contributor in this moment? Because God has called me into this role. The next one is intentionality. This is what you're doing. You're being an intentional parent by listening to this, wanting to learn as much as you can. Also, intentional parents develop charts. I have to admit, charts aren't always followed through on. They're great intentions. Make charts work for you. You're going to need to adapt them, make them work for your family. You don't have to do it just like a place has done it. Even with our chart with the 7 traits, just have that as a reference. And one of the things that I've done as an intentional parent is I've written, I really enjoy going through these with my kids. This is a journal for my daughter, and I put her birth announcement there, and then just some things along the way as reflection points. Just wrote some thoughts early on during the toddler years, because they're hilarious during the toddler years. They do the things they won't do down the road. And they love to, now as teenagers, on snow days or other times, they say, hey, can we read what we did when we were 2 or 3? Because they don't remember. And then they get to laugh at themselves and have a great time. They go, man, I did that? No way. And so you get to reminisce on who they were as toddlers and what was going on there. And it shows a relational warmth and interest in who they're created to be. And so my goal is to give this to them when they leave. And every once in a while, I'll put a picture or something. It's hard to keep up with any of these beyond the year 5. I mean, really, in reality, it just speeds up beyond there. And from 10 on, it's a flash. So just know that time is going to go super fast after 10. So right now it may feel like eternity because of how active your kids are and how tired you feel, but that will change. And so take some time to just write down some funnies. If you take video and then rewrite it, I mean, that's fine. But your kids will love that when you pull that out. Just know that. So that's intentionality. We do contributor journals. You can read about these or learn about them through bringyourbible.org. That's one of our websites, and that's where we want to help kids live out their faith. And I talk about contributor journals there. We don't have time to go much into that, but you can learn about it there. And you can start those early on. I drew a little picture for my daughter to start out, wrote her name like that, made it very special. And then her identity, what I've seen and who she is as a daughter of Christ. And then from there, just little notes and words and quotes, and you can just be as creative as you want to be. And then the next one is steadfast love. This one is one of my favorites because we get love wrong. When your kids are at their worst is when they actually require most of the highest amount of your love. Remember that. That's steadfast love. When they're being good, you're not necessarily being a loving parent. It's just very convenient for you. It's when they're at their worst that you're being the most loving parent, because that's when you have to dig deep into your love tank to really respond to those. And so that means you taking care of yourself and really having God's steadfast love pour into your life so that you can show that affection and that love to your kids when they're not so likable. And that happens a lot during the toddler years. Just know that. There's biting, there's mealtime issues or tantrums that are coming in. They're trying to manage this right side of the brain as it's growing and expanding so quickly, and their city is expanding. And there's going to be a lot of conflict, right? When you have a little city trying to build. So keep that in mind. You could even draw a city in your house and picture that little city building as they're experiencing new things. Maybe a new little building goes in and you're learning more about your child, and they can picture that we need to maintain this highway between us, and that's steadfast love. You are committed to not let those roads become destroyed. You're committed to knowing that they're always under construction, and we're going to build those highways, and we're going to communicate, because the investment you put now will help the teen years. I guarantee. Now, sometimes there's mental health issues and other things that come in, influences from friends that are variables you can't really fully control. But on the parts that you can, as you're doing the 7 traits and modeling steadfast love, you'll see that the investment is worth it. One ritual that I did that you may love, I was going to bring the book and I don't think I brought it. It's called I Love You Rituals. It's not a focus on the family book. It's just one I loved that I used in the school system with those preschool age kids that we did evaluations for. And one that I used in our house was Tony Chestnut Knows I Love You. I don't know if you've heard that, but that's one ritual in that book that my kids can still do back. When at nighttime when they were going to bed, I would do something silly, because laughter, affection, those types of things create bonding and attachment. And at nighttime, you want to close up with that, because many times we close up with conflict. So point to your toes, your knee, your chest, your nut, nose, I love you. And that shows the movement, and they start to mirror that with you. And then you have that unique connection with each other, almost like a giant love handshake, but it's a body shake, right? Where you are showing a connectedness with that child, a special one. All right, the last 3, I'll just go right into these. I know, Christine, we're running out of time. So the next one is boundaries and limits. Boundaries and limits. So boundaries is on yourself. How can you say no to other people or not? And if you can't, is it out of comparison or competition or afraid to disappoint people? Because you have a certain amount of energy store, and you need to be ready for the emotional demandingness of the toddler years. And so know that you're not in charge of anyone's happiness, nor are you in competition with anyone else in parenting. You are there to love and mold and influence this child. The other one is boundaries, just boundaries on your kids. One thing that I love to do, and we did in our home, was put stop signs all throughout the house. And these are stop signs of learning how to stop and think and notice, right? I'm going to notice what is going on. And so sometimes you'll help your kids stop and notice that they interrupted a conversation, or that they threw a toy or broke a toy that they weren't taking care of, that they weren't managing well. Or maybe a stop sign where they're throwing their food, and you say, oh, let's look at that stop sign. What is happening? Let's observe. And so you're helping them look around and notice. And that's just a fantastic skill to learn, that self-control. It's not about stopping them all the time. It's about noticing. Stop signs are about respect and boundaries and kind of observing when we're all in. Sometimes we need those stop signs to know those. The next one is grace and forgiveness. This is about modeling reconnections and the fact that the roads are always under construction, that you are willing to have grace and understanding. And in the tantrum phase, the toddler years, grace is huge. What is happening in my child? Did they not have enough food? Did they not sleep enough? What are they so upset about? And if you come in with that grace and understanding, sometimes that softens their physiological response enough to begin to shift their brain a bit. And so just with that forgiveness, help them see that forgiveness repairs things. And that's in your relationship with your spouse, forgiveness with them. It's really not beneficial to demand that they forgive someone else. Help them notice what it feels like to repair a relationship. When someone says they're sorry, how'd that feel? What is that like for somebody to say they're sorry? What do you think it's like for them when you ask for forgiveness? Help them observe all those things. And within that, help them learn how to be builders, right? How can I build in my relationships And those are, that's the, we're talking about contributors in God's kingdom, noticers, builders, and connectors. The builders and connector piece requires that forgiveness and that grace on other people. I want to build in them, and part of that is I'm building a relationship that's going to be filled with imperfections. The last one is gratitude. This one helps reset the mind. There are moments where like this morning, just seeing my kids and saying, man, I'm so grateful for the 2 kids I've been given. I'm grateful for the home I got. I'm grateful for the experiences we've had. I'm grateful for Lexi. I'm grateful for Alex. My 2 kids, grateful for my wife. Just going through a process of gratitude. God throughout Scripture has shown that thankfulness and gratitude sets our mind in humility, but it really sets us up in a good place to be responsive to other people and to what God's doing. Otherwise, we go to everything that's going wrong and our emotions start to go into chaos. So this is about developing a mindset inside of yourself that you're going to be even grateful for the tough times like Paul showed. And man, that begins to really make you a resilient parent. So remember, toddlers are in their first phase of independence and discovery. This is the time to invest now. It makes a huge difference down the road. Give yourself timeouts, be creative. Know that family meals are essential as far as what research has shown with the connectedness over time. Set that pattern early. One thing that I encourage parents to do as early as possible is give your kids a high five, do secret handshakes, but then the high five is telling them 5 things you're observing in them, 5 things you love about them, 5 things you love to do with them. Just do a high five and then tell them something about your relationship or about them as a reflection before they go to bed, maybe when they wake up, maybe when they're starting to get emotionally roused up. You go, hey, let's do a high five. Here are 5 things that I think you would love to do, or here are your 5 favorite colors, and so you can just go into that and help them go into their cerebral side a little bit, and they'll build off of your excitement of the high five. They won't even know why you're excited, but they'll kind of respond to that, and that's exciting. So you've got this as parents. Remember that you've got this. This is about a time of focus, teaching, relationship with God. Deuteronomy 6 is a great place to start. To love the Lord your God with everything. And then from there to teach your kids wherever you go. Right now we go for long distances to church. And at first we're going, man, our church is so far away. But man, that is so exciting. We get to process what's happening in church and talk that through. But car rides, walks, anywhere you can, having those teachable moments, even just moments of learning about each other and writing those down. As they get a little older, you'll notice questions that are reflective. If you start early, will become commonplace. If all of a sudden you start asking questions down the road of emotional reflection and things like that, it will feel weird and awkward to them. But if you start early, it'll just be a part of your conversations in the car, when you're walking, at meal times. So that's just the beginning. My book is coming out in August, mid-August. It's called The 7 Traits of Effective Parenting. And this is about building contributors, not consumers. And it has that building city illustration and hopefully a lot of practical tools there. But if you want a free chapter of it, you can go to focusonthefamily.com/7 traits chapter. And that's the number 7 traits chapter. Also, you can take the free assessment, the 7 traits parenting assessment. You don't have to buy the book. Even there, you'll get plenty of content for absolutely free. And that's focusonthefamily.com/parenting or /7 traits. 7 traits. And then you can just go in general to our page. We have new content every day. And that's, again, the focusonthefamily.com. And that's where you do /parenting. And just so excited to be here with you. And any questions, things like that you want to send us, send it our way. I do have some giveaways, as Christine mentioned. And we have Clubhouse Junior, this magazine. I get to oversee the team, an amazing team, by the way. And in this one, you get stickers, you get all kinds of really great activities to begin reading together. And you get a 1-year subscription. And I'm going to pick 3 different people to get that 1-year subscription. So I want to know, Christine, who posted the most during our time talking? Who was actively on there?
Let's give to Liz. I've seen her active every day on here. So let's give one to Liz.
Okay, it's a 12-month subscription to Clubhouse Junior. $20.
All right, Liz,
Yeah.
woohoo. She says, yay, thank you.
All right, good. You'll love it.
Liz,
Then
make sure you contact me so that we can get you all the information then.
And then the next one is most kids in the home. Who has the most kids in the home? Because you do need a magazine for sure.
Yes, share with us in the chat. Who has the most kids? Give us a number.
Oh, we have 4 kids, right? And then the other one, as they're sending it into you, Christine, the other one is who logged in the farthest distance. You know, who is the farthest away from you? I know in my Facebook Lives through Focus, I've had people from Australia and Africa on there. And so I was interested to see how the distance of who was the farthest from Focus on the Family. So that's Colorado Springs. Who was the farthest away from Colorado Springs?
So pop it in the chat.
Yeah.
Again, how many kids you have, and then where you are listening in from. I know a lot of people have been watching the replays too.
Right.
This is kind of like that mixed time, like especially depending on what time zone you are in, right? Like if you're getting close to lunch with your kids, you know, your kids start to get squirrely a little bit before lunch, or some kids.
What we could do is just have them, you know, with the replays and all that, you can just accumulate that and then you can take it from there. You know, you have all the information. And
sure, yeah.
Who responds to all that, and then you can give them away at that point. You'll love the magazine. Anybody else that wants the magazine, you get a huge discount, you know, here at Focus and Clubhouse Junior. And then after that, it's Clubhouse with a lot of good biblical opportunities there, but just some great stories you can read. And yeah, it's a great magazine.
Awesome. Cool. So we'll give one to Liz, and then I'll just post later today, like where everybody's coming from. We'll see who is like the furthest away from, where did you say? Colorado, is that what you said?
Yes, Colorado, right.
Okay, right. So we'll see who's the furthest away from you, and then who has the most kids. Cool.
And then the Summer Adventure Kit, right? That's something that's on there as well for everyone.
Yeah, I'll post that too. Yeah, the adventure kit that's for free. Absolutely. Yeah. Very cool. Well, thank you so much, and for all the extra like fun bonus prizes too. Oh, like that's just awesome. Focus on the Family is awesome. I actually grew up listening to Focus on the Family all the time. Like we were constantly listening, like at home and in the car. So it's just like such an honor to have Focus on the Family with us today. And then for tomorrow, everybody make sure that you're tuning in for Balancing Digital Life, a little bit of like a kind of debated topic, or maybe the topic you don't really want to hear about. So we're going to be talking digital life tomorrow. And if you're not getting the emails, make sure you signed up for Parenting Toddlers Summit.com if you're not getting those reminder emails. And then the rest of our giveaways we're giving away at the end of the month, so you still have time, or the end of the month, the end of the summit. So you still have time that you can write all your takeaways and sharing the group and all those things. So don't forget about those, and then tune in tomorrow again for my talk on balancing digital life. So thank you again, Danny. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you so much. Thank you, Christine.